It's always good to hear what you're going to speak about the moment before you come up and speak. I take a lot of long walks in the desert. That's what old guys do, right? But while my wife thinks I'm out there just wasting time, but actually I think about a lot. And lately I've had a lot to think about, no shortage. As a grown man, my father talked to me when I came back from one of the assignments somewhere, where probably Alaska or maybe later on, Fort Bragg or somewhere, and he says, "Why are you a Jew?" I thought about it for a minute, and the first thing that came to mind was birthright, right? It's my birthright. My mother's Jewish, and I'll talk to you later on about DNA and why we ought to be able to kind of not do so much of that these days, but birthright. But then I thought a little bit longer, and the second piece of it was really choice. It was my choice that every day I made a conscious decision to be Jewish and to observe as best I could in a very secular society, but to be Jewish and embrace it. It's important. And the reason I bring that story up is, as minor as it was in my life at the time, it seems very important right now that from my father's generation, who was also a World War II veteran, as my mother was a nurse in the Army Nurse Corps in European theater, very proud of their service. And I've told a story earlier, being here in the congregation, about them not wanting me to go in the military, to go do something else. And being the middle child of 5, I could get away with everything, so like running away to the circus, I joined the Army, all right? But it was a choice. And my father's talking to me at this moment to gain some clarity and somehow embrace that the choice I made was a sound choice. I did it because of my heart, and that it was something I thought our family needed to do for the country. You've got to think about it. It's 1974. It's in a small liberal arts college in Illinois. It's a small ROTC program, and people aren't joining the Army, and they certainly aren't joining the infantry. But it was a conscious choice, just like being Jewish. And I think that source of the conversation with him just solidified that they finally became proud of the choices that I had made. And that I wasn't off making a lot of money. I was doing something I really cared deeply about our country. I never did anything with Israel for the first 34 years of my career. My last 4.5 years as a general officer at US SOCOM, I inherited a program. It was called, and we name stuff when we want to hide it in plain sight, but it was a senior officer development program that was directly linked to the IDF. And I took the job in 2007. It was my year to host the Israelis in Tampa, and I did. And I got to know all of them over the next 4.5 years. Benny Gantz is a very close personal friend of mine now because of those times, and many more, Yoav Gallant as well. But the point is, I didn't do anything with the Israelis, one, because of where I was in the Army, and two, I didn't want anybody questioning my patriotism, because they would do that at the time. They would. Who are you really working for? And that should never have come up, nor would it. That's about as close to any really kind of in-your-face anti-Semitism I really saw. But when I was dealing with the IDF, I realized very quickly that right now I'm looking at the strategic depth of Israel, the American Jewish population, you, me, the choices we make. It's critical. The other part of the choice it was an act not of rebellion at this point, but an act of, and I'm not call myself a courageous person, but it was an act of personal courage to do something at that time that wasn't very popular, my father thought wasn't very smart or even clever, but I thought was very necessary. And the reason I bring courage up is I kind of know it when I see it, and I know it when I do it, and I don't hesitate. But I'm trying to be courageous for my parents who gave so much to me and my family and my siblings, but also to my daughter, my granddaughter, and my son-in-law. I spend a lot of time sending her articles and giving her insights and telling her, yeah, you should be worried, but don't let it change what you're going to do or who you're going to be. You have to find your own set of personal courage and bring it forward for yourself, for your family, for me, for your children, my grandchildren. I'm asking you to do the same thing. It's a matter of choice every day. Every day, when I go to bed at night, I do two things. I do the Shema. I ask for people to be cared for and blessed by God. And routinely, I also do the Shekianu, because I understand as you get old, your days are numbered. Yeah, no, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but really, you know, being able to be somewhere, to be in the season is important. And the less time you have, more time you have behind you, less time you have in front of you, the Shekianu becomes very, very powerful. Find your courage. This is a wonderful congregation. I've always been impressed. I talked about coming. I've been here to the High Holy Days many, many times. Found it by happenstance, and I'm glad I did. I don't know where you get your music people, but they're phenomenal. I mean, they are. That was wonderful. You are what matters. You are the strategic depth of Israel. You're the strategic depth for the country. I'm going to be willing to take questions after services are over. I'll hang around for a while if you want to talk about anything. And I don't have a lot of time, and general officers can talk forever about God knows what, right? But today, that was the message. It's very, very succinct. The choices we make matter. The last thing I'll leave you with is when all this started, somebody made some rude comment. I mean, an anti-Semitic comment. And without even thinking, I was very raw. I mean, very raw. I just launched into the guy. Well, we don't do that where I live out in Rio Verde. It's a bubble. It's a weird bubble. It's a nice bubble. It's a weird bubble, though. I launched on this guy, and he just kind of backed off like, whoa. You know, where'd that come from? I walked away, kind of made peace with him. I walked away, and it gave me a lesson. When somebody shows you who they are, you need to believe them, okay? This is not a second chance anymore. This goes back to personal courage. How you confront them, what you do, you are no longer able to be passive bystanders filming. We are all very much a part of this. And the courage that you get and the strength you get is from the congregation and from each other. We have to take it. We have to make sure the message resounds, is repeated, and people understand who we are. This is not 1933 to 1945. The world is different in good ways and bad ways. But the IDF is very clear on what they have to do, and they will do it. They will do it, and they will do it ruthlessly, without any relent, but they'll also do it ethically. That's the difference. There's a value set that's missing in a lot of America. We're seeing it now. And I'll stop right there on that one. Find your courage, get in touch with your courage, figure out what's important to you, and act on your values. Good Shabbos. Thanks, Rabbi.